Oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. That makes sense. That's it. That's not so hard. I understand now. That's not so hard. So that's what that means. I knew I could figure it out.
What is this?
It's an alethiometer. It tells the truth.
Based on New Line Cinema's upcoming feature film, Sega brings you a behind-the-scenes look at the official video game of the movie, The Golden Compass.
The Golden Compass is the first in a trilogy by Philip Pullman called His Dark Materials that New Line is putting together, and we're very excited to be working with them on this project.
I read the books many years ago. To be given the opportunity to work on this, The Golden Compass, with New Line Cinema, has been a blast, and we're having a great time doing it.
This title has everything. There's magic, there's mystery, there's adventure, there's action, there's suspense, there's drama. It's a great story.
I propose to discover a world much like our own in a parallel universe.
I think it's a very intelligent book and it's a very intelligent story.
It has just enough of a fantasy feel mixed with an alternate universe type look that makes it pretty exciting to work on.
In a parallel universe, young Lyra journeys to the far north to save her kidnapped best friend.
Golden Compass is an exciting game. It's a wonderful fantasy world.
On her adventure, she makes new friends, encounters strange and wondrous creatures, and meets mysterious people who are not always what they seem.
I look at video games as the convergence, the natural progression. The tool sets have started to become very close to the same. Now we have specialized teams of artisans who trained in film and TV classically and have transferred that knowledge and that style over to the video game area.
The goal was to design a video game that allows players to interact with stunning environments based on those in the movie.
Before sets were being built, we had access to whatever concept art they were creating. New Line's provided us with several pieces representing the tone and the atmosphere of the game, information about all the sets and the plans.
This project is quite a bit different than anything I've worked on before. We are experiencing a world that none of us have ever seen before. We get reference from the film set, and we right away have a launching pad for what we need to strive for.
Everybody's just been really helpful, working together to see that it's the best game we could possibly make.
Capturing the rich design and production values of the movie was key for the development of the game.
We'll decide what can I do to add drama to this place to help set the tone, the mood, and that introduces the opportunity for a visual approach that we've not touched on before.
We have two very distinct different modes. When you're playing as Lyra with Yorick, it's a straight-up combat game. As the player progresses through the game, Lyra does in fact mature as a character. So the further you get into the game, her knowledge increases as she learns more about the world that she's in, partially through use of the alethiometer, which inherently also allows her to grow and allows Pan to grow. And then as Pan becomes more capable, it allows Lyra more physical abilities to actually move through the environment.
We've protected her as long as we could.
You have no idea what's at stake.
I have a contract with the child.
Are you familiar with the prophecies of the witches?
She must be found.
Creating multiple characters that the player can control simultaneously presented exciting challenges for the development team.
We were provided with cyber scans of the heads of Lyra and the actors. We would receive photos from the costume department of her standing, various angles, some rotations, which really was the saving grace for creating characters that look like they do in the movie.
We focused on Pan's shape-shifting abilities, how these shape-shifting abilities will work and react, how Lyra will work with Pan in tandem to work her way through these series of obstacles.
Yorick's path is much more physically based, where Lyra's role is to figure things out. His is much more simply just to crash through.
Researching the behavior and movement of animals in natural settings was crucial in animating their movements and reactions in the game.
Yorick's this big, strong bear. One of our producers traveled up north and he took video footage. We wanted to see how the actual bones and the arms were actually set up in these animals. We took his footage and we animated on top of that.
The Golden Compass introduces the alethiometer to the world. Gamers can learn how to use this truth-telling device, just as Lyra does in the movie.
We need a whole system based around the alethiometer. This tool is this fascinating object that Lyra is able to use to help overcome different series of challenges.
The alethiometer is one of my favorite sounds that we came up with. It's a complex watch-like device that discerns truth.
Keep the alethiometer to yourself. It's of the utmost importance to all of us, and perhaps to all creation.
Video games gives me that opportunity as an audio artist to basically think outside the box. It's a whole different animal, basically, because anything can happen in conjunction with anything else at any time.
Doing sound and music for the Golden Compass has been extremely challenging and rewarding. Jamie has done an amazing job as a composer.
First thing I did was actually just write the main theme for the game, which actually from that, bits and elements started coming to me for Lyra and Yorick, and they kind of meshed all together at once. Lyra is the little girl in the movie, and she's got a certain sense of childlike wonderment, but there's still a hint of something foreboding about her journey. With her, we kind of treated her with lighter instruments. Yorick is kind of primitive, so we represented him obviously with a bunch of drums.
As an orchestrator, one of the most important things I can do is to notate the music in such a way that the musician knows exactly what we want. A lot of conducting has to do with sort of reacting to what you're getting right then and there.
It's really come together far better than I think any of us would have imagined it would.
The Golden Compass is set to be released on multiple gaming platforms, bringing the movie's rich and exciting landscapes and vivid characters to interactive life, providing players with hours of challenging, adventurous, and rewarding gameplay. The Golden Compass video game will show you the way.
I became involved with the movie when I went to the open call auditions in Cambridge with about 2,000 to 3,000 other girls, and then when I got the part of in the movie, the game came with it.
No! Don't drink that!
Lyra!
It's poison!
Nonsense. What are you doing?
He swore it. Because he needs my help, see? What for? Fighting, probably.
I am very much looking forward to the game and playing it because it's, from what I know of it, it looks and sounds like really exciting.
Good.
It would be strange to play myself in the video game because, I mean, it's the first time I've ever kind of seen myself doing anything apart from like just being me. I find it easier to do the voiceover for the film than I do to do the voiceover for the game, because you get to watch the clips of yourself on the screen before you do it, which gives you a bit of like, shows you what the surroundings were and stuff.
Because bees are always working hard. And if you're a spy, you have to work hard.
The challenges in the voiceover performance would be just that there's no stimulation, really, apart from the people on the other side of the glass in the other room, but apart from that, it's like there's nothing to get you into the scene.
Maybe they were the ones watching us.
That was
very good, yeah.
I do find it quite difficult, but I find it also fun, like the same way I found doing the green screen stuff fun, because you're imagining what it will be like for yourself, which can actually give you a better idea rather than just like being on a set and having people all around you. I've never really known how I become Lyra in my performances, but I think I think I try and take as much of the Lyra in myself and kind of put that in front of everything else.
The beehive, maybe?
My favourite parts of the video game to narrate were just like the random lines between Lyra and Pan when they're standing around and the person who's playing it is like stopped playing for a bit. And yeah, I just think some of the things that they say are quite cool.
He's a spy, right? So he's trying to find out things.
I've seen very short clips in the trailer for the game, but they look really, really fun and really cool and stuff. I came to be involved in film I was reading the script, and I was sent the script and I read it on this flight back actually from Dublin to London, and originally they wanted a male adult to play the voice of Pantomime, but then they wanted someone closer to Lyra's age, so they asked me to do it.
Just hang out here for a second. Just hang out here for a second.
I had read the books, yeah, but only a few years earlier, so it wasn't like right in my mind, but I mean they're always great stories, and I think it's well known among kids.
Action.
I like football games, I like soccer games. And then last year I was in Montreal actually, and I got into ice hockey, a bit of ice hockey games, but I wouldn't come home from school and play them, but if you're waiting in the airport for a flight to come in that's delayed, they're always handy to have, or in the makeup chair in the morning. The game is brilliant, it's a great game.
Hold on. He's still watching. Hold on, he's still watching.
I mean, obviously, you had to match to a certain amount of picture, and you couldn't go on with the line for like 5 minutes. But I mean, there was a certain amount of leeway you could go to, and that was great, to be able to get into the character.
About as much chance as him bringing the walrus tusk, I suppose.
I have performed voiceover work in the past. I did a film called Arthur and the Minimoys, and it was a half animated film and half live action, and I did the voiceover for the animated bit of that.
Okay, 724 on page 91.
Well, each project's different, so they all compare differently. But I mean, they're always great fun to do, and you always get into the different character. And in a way, it's similar to filming because you've got to get into the character, and you are that person.
Yorick! 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 Yorick!
I'm not sure which bits are fun to do. I mean, it's fun to get into all the different emotions that the character can have. So it's great when there's a mixture of emotions to go to.
We go on all sorts of adventures here, Lyra.
To convey the essence of the character, I think you've got to believe in it. And I think you just have to get into the character, because if you don't believe it, then no one else will.
When we began working on the Golden Compass game, it was clear very early in the process that one of the most compelling characters was Yorick Byrnison, a huge, armored, talking polar bear. The designers immediately set out to devise gameplay that would take advantage of this amazing character, but as the animation team producer, I was more concerned with how we were going to handle making him move in a way that felt realistic to the player. The answer seemed fairly obvious. We need to see real polar bears for reference, but where? We had already decided to do all of the animation in the game by hand, which was a good thing considering it wasn't very likely that we'd find a polar bear willing to put on a mocap suit for us. I then spoke with a couple of Hollywood animal trainers who told me that almost no one even tries working with these polar giants due to their immense size and power. For the most part, the polar bears seen in zoos tend to look far different from their wild cousins due to the warmer temperatures. So to get truly accurate reference, we'd need to use wild polar bears, and that meant that someone was going to have to go out and get the footage. That someone was me. Churchill, Manitoba, Canada is known as the polar bear capital of the world. Large groups of bears congregate there during the fall as they wait for the ice pack to form. Once that happens, they head out onto the bay and spend the rest of the winter hunting seals. But until that happens, they're stuck on land waiting, which makes them much easier to photograph. I flew the 1,540 miles from Shiny Studios in Southern California north to Winnipeg, where I joined a group that was headed out to see bears on the tundra. We then took another flight that took us the remaining 624 miles north to Churchill. There are regular expeditions at this time of year that take people out in tundra buggies. We spent the days riding around the tundra looking at bears and then returned at night to the lodge, which is essentially a train of buggies strung together and parked on the shores of Hudson Bay. Kevin, our guide for the trip, passed on a lot of information not only about the bears but lots of other wildlife as well. There are a lot more animals than you might think up in the far north. In addition to the polar bears, there are many different bird species present, including ptarmigans, snow buntings, gyrfalcon, and snowy owls. We also saw a few Arctic hares and some Arctic foxes. We also got word that there had been some tundra wolves spotted near town as well. I learned many interesting things about polar bears on this trip. For example, the bears around Churchill fast for much of the year during the warmer months when the ice pack is melted. They can only hunt seals during the winter and need to eat enough during that time that they're able to survive throughout the spring and summer while they wait on dry land for the ice to return. The female bears have an even tougher time of it. It's during this time that they give birth and raise their cubs. For the first few months of their lives, the cubs survive solely on their mother's milk, which she generates from her fat stores without taking in any additional food herself. If they don't get enough to eat during the winter hunting season, they won't give birth at all. When I returned to Shiny, I presented a slideshow of some of what I'd seen in Churchill to a group of artists and animators. The visual effects artists were interested in the footage of the swirling, blowing snow, the concept artists in the anatomy of the bears, and the animators in how the bears moved during their various daily activities. After compressing the videos down to a more manageable size, the animators were then able to view the video in one window while working in Motion Builder in another. This fast A/B switching allowed them to compare the Churchill bears with their digital in-game counterparts and capture the nuances of their movement. I spent 3 days out on the tundra shooting reference material. Along the way, I got the opportunity to talk to a National Geographic photographer who came out with us for a day, and also got to check out the rig they use for the polar bear cam, where footage of bears is streamed live on the internet all day during polar bear season. We saw bears wrestling, sleeping, running, playing, grooming themselves, and a myriad of other things, and it was all captured on tape to bring back to the team at Shiny to make sure that the bears you see in-game stay true to the spirit of their Arctic cousins.
Polar bears aren't the only animals featured in the world of the Golden Compass. All the characters have demons who take the forms of various animals, ranging from Lord Asriel's snow leopard to Mrs. Coulter's golden monkey to Pantalaimmon's favored ermine form. We needed to have lots of these represented in the game, and again, we wanted them to both look and move realistically. Fortunately, we didn't have to go very far to get these references. Just north of Los Angeles is the Wildlife Way Station, a non-profit refuge for native, wild, and exotic animals. These animals come from all over the world and from many different situations. Throughout the way station's history, educating the public about wildlife has been a priority. The overall goal is to preserve wildlife and cease its abuse and mistreatment. Some of the animals residing at the way station are habituated to be educational animals, to promote animal and man coexisting and learning from each other. One of our producers contacted them and arranged for us to visit the facility with a small video crew. We spent a couple of days getting footage of all sorts of different animals in motion, walking, climbing, running, turning, pouncing, and more. In some cases, when an exact match for a particular demon was unavailable, we would make do with a similar animal. For example, a ferret was used in place of the ermine, and several breeds of monkey were used as reference for Mrs. Coulter's demon. In many cases, we were able to film the animals outside of their enclosures in a more natural backdrop. These videos were then brought back to the Shiny offices, where they were digitized for the animators, who by this time were very happy to see something besides polar bears. There were some interesting moments during the course of the shoot. Anything can and usually does happen when working with animals, and this was no exception. The American black bears were in semi-hibernation and refused to cooperate at all. Hawks fly deceptively fast, and it was a challenge to keep them in frame. One proposed move, an uphill walk over an obstacle by an African lioness, was nixed when we realized she was heavy enough that she'd probably just crush it completely. Since the obstacle in question was a truck belonging to one of our cameramen, this was probably for the best. On another occasion, several of the crew were caught off guard when one of the big cats deviated from the original path and bounded straight at the cameraman instead. In the end, it all paid off. Armed with this reference footage, the animators were able to really bring the demons of the world of the Golden Compass to life.